We started with 2 cows, my mother and I milking them by hand when I was 10 years old. Today, we are milking around 430 cows. In a compost barn, we now have sprinklers on both sides. The bedding is managed. It is compost bedding, right? That's what we work with here. We are averaging approximately 37 to 38 liters, fluctuating within that range.
5 on each side, 2 rounds. Here in Paraguay, we have a challenge. We don't have any laboratory that analyzes starch. We use the Penn State sieve and send samples to a laboratory in Brazil.
Jesse sent a message saying that he won't be making videos anymore because you haven't subscribed to the Santa Fe channel. So subscribe now, and he will continue recording on farms around the world.
My name is Hugo Keller, owner of Agro Milk Farm here in Paraguay, Colonia, Palmas, in the department of Cogazoo. We run a family farm with my parents, the Keller family, and we are truly happy to be able to do this work as a family. We are passionate about farm work and working together as a family. Currently, we are milking around 430 cows, with an average production of approximately 37 to 38 liters, fluctuating within that range. We started with 2 cows, my mother and I milking them by hand when I was 10 years old. Later, we purchased a herd from the Chaco region during a drought. We acquired 20 cows and 20 heifers. The cows were quite crossbred with zebu, but the current herd originates from that initial investment. We have been working with artificial insemination for about 14 to 15 years. We use a significant amount of sexed semen and, at a certain point, also worked with embryos. However, we are currently focusing more on insemination, as we have seen good results with this technique and did not achieve such favorable returns with embryos, which led us to pause that method. Here, we work with a total mixed ration system, providing 4 feedings per day due to the limited capacity of our mixer. The bedding is managed. It is compost bedding, meaning we use a compost barn system, which is what we work with here. We harrow 3 times a day, using a subsoiler or a harrow, always raking after each milking. In the compost barn, we always provide at least 15 square meters per cow, reducing to 12 square meters during certain times of the year, but never less than that. Ideally, however, we aim to maintain 15 square meters per cow. We face very humid periods, sometimes experiencing 2 to 3 weeks of continuous rainfall, which requires replenishing the organic bedding material. For this, we use eucalyptus organic matter, which we cut here on the farm, process into sawdust, and later manage with the subsoiler. Regarding heat stress management, we use 24-hour ventilation. We work with sprinklers at the feed bunk, and in one of the compost barns, we have installed sprinklers on both sides, powered by a water pump for increased pressure. Additionally, we have a protective tunnel to prevent side winds and ensure that water remains in the cow's feeding lane. In the holding pen, we have a high-capacity shower system, where cows arrive about 40 minutes before milking. Our goal is to ensure that each group remains wet for at least 40 minutes, promoting heat dissipation. This is, in general, how we manage our cows. In the new compost barn, where we have greater control over sprinkler timing, we conduct up to 9 watering cycles per day in the feed lane. It is a high frequency, but necessary due to the high humidity levels in our region. Many times, even right now, we are dealing with humidity levels of 70% or higher, reaching up to 80%, with temperatures of at least 30 degrees Celsius. In the summer, we aim to formulate diets with lower fiber content to facilitate digestion for the cows, always adjusting energy levels and other components. However, this aspect is managed by the nutritionist, who regulates these factors. Nonetheless, diets are indeed modified in the summer to make them more suitable for climatic conditions. Regarding embryos, we have made some acquisitions here in Paraguay, but as I mentioned earlier, this is not our priority. Our focus is not so much on incorporating show genetics, but rather on enhancing the productive genetics of our herd, and we follow this selection strategy. From the very beginning, 15 years ago, when we started working with artificial insemination, the person who taught us this technique already advised us to choose smaller stature bulls. That is why we always seek medium to small size bulls. We know that this might slightly impact milk production. We won't have cows producing 90 or 100 liters per day, but that is not our goal. We aim for smaller cows with great robustness. This is the genetics I seek today, which presents a challenge here in Paraguay, as most of the available genetics come from the US or Canada. Currently, American genetics have already shifted towards medium-sized bulls, but it is still difficult to find shorter bulls with good body structure. This is the approach I have learned through my experience, the same one my parents adopted 15 years ago, and I have realized that it was the best decision they could have made. This is especially important due to heat stress. It rains year-round and humidity is constant, which presents a major challenge for the cows. They need to have good lung capacity and a compact body, because the larger the body, the greater the effort required to dissipate heat.
I would like to talk a little about manure observation because we don't need to open the cow to understand what's going on inside. The ideal manure consistency should be between 2 and 3 fingers in height. If it is only 1 finger high, it means the cow has diarrhea. If it is too high, it indicates excess fiber and a low presence of grains. High-producing cows should have manure with a texture similar to a thick pancake. When it falls, it should make a characteristic sound. As they say, the nutritionist should applaud when seeing this format, as it means the condition is perfect. This indicates good ruminal health with no unpleasant odors or excessive fly presence. Although we work with highly productive cows, we place great importance on fiber, especially effective fiber, to ensure ruminal health and reduce the need for additives. The corn we use is very well processed. We work with both dry ground corn and high moisture corn, as using only high moisture corn can significantly reduce the milk fat content, considering that corn is already present in the silage, as we will see next.
The system we implemented in this compost barn, with the tunnel or tarps that prevent lateral wind from excessively shifting the water, is primarily designed to keep the bedding dry on one side and the feed dry on the other. This helps us a lot, allowing us to maintain sprinkler use without compromising these aspects. We know that when the diet gets wet, it tends to sink, and the same happens with the bedding, which can turn into mud in these areas. With this structure, we minimize these issues and significantly improve the environment, ensuring that the wind is directed only toward the cows at the feed bunk. Generally, we do not measure results in a specific way, but we have noticed that this structure has brought great benefits to this compost barn. We know that at some point we will implement the same system in the other compost barn, because we have already observed that in the one where it was implemented, the cows show greater comfort. Through the AFI system, we monitor heat stress and have noticed a much more significant reduction in this problem in this compost barn. At night, from around 1 or 2 a.m., almost no cows are feeding, but there's always someone monitoring, staying until 5 a.m., when the daytime team takes over. I believe the biggest challenge for any farm or company is managing people. We, as humans, seek daily changes in our habits and behaviors. But dairy cows require consistency. They need routine and predictability. That is why we strive to implement the 5S system, continuous team training, and social development programs. In addition to technical training, we invest in employee education on topics like personal finance. We understand that an employee can only perform well if they are well in their personal life. Someone dealing with marital, family, or financial problems will likely struggle to concentrate at work. That is why we offer courses that help our employees improve their financial management and personal well-being. On a daily basis, we aim to organize work more effectively by using the 5S system, establishing clear routines for each task, and implementing signage to facilitate activity execution. We know this is a long-term process that does not consolidate in 1 or 2 years, but we have been investing in it since 2019. I had the opportunity to attend a course in Brazil at MDA with Paulo Machado from Milk Clinic, where I learned various management strategies for a dairy farm. Since then, we have been applying these practices here and also encourage other team members to attend this course. Our goal is to ensure that every person working with us feels good and motivated. We provide on-farm housing for employees, along with a team of cooks. Additionally, we ensure that each employee has 5 days per month to return home and disconnect from work, as we understand the importance of rest. In Paraguay, the tax burden is not very high, and there is good availability of labor. However, it is essential to train workers, as there are few formally educated professionals. Many people only have incomplete primary education, but if they are interested and willing to learn, we can train them. That is the profile we look for. People who want to learn, grow, and do things in the best possible way. If we find these professionals, the work flows well. Today, taxes in Paraguay are reasonable, much lower than in Brazil. Additionally, the relationship between employers and workers has gradually improved, with laws that aim to protect both parties. This is crucial to ensuring a fair balance and that the labor market continues to generate opportunities for everyone.
Here, we make extensive use of high moisture corn, which offers the advantage of eliminating freight costs. The corn is locally produced, harvested, and stored directly, avoiding transportation to the cooperative, the drying process, and the subsequent shipment back. Additionally, high moisture corn has slightly higher digestibility than dry corn. The only point of attention is that since it is preserved through acid fermentation, excessive use may reduce milk fat content. Therefore, we use as much high moisture corn as possible, but complement it with some dry ground corn to maintain milk quality. Currently, we are also using some ground oats, which we acquired from a neighbor who had a surplus and offered it at an opportune price. Oats partially replace corn, but for it to be economically viable, its cost must be at least 30% lower than that of corn. Here are the ground oats, ready to be loaded directly into the mixer. We are using between 1.5 kilograms and 2 kilograms per cow per day. On a farm where cows average 40 liters of milk per day, daily grain consumption ranges between 15 kilograms and 18 kilograms per animal. Meanwhile, cows producing 60 liters, or even those that reached 70 liters last week, consume between 30 kilograms and 35 kilograms of dry matter per day, with more than 20 kilograms coming from grains. What stands out is that there are no cases of acidosis, thanks to the proper management of effective fiber. This is our pre-dried forage, harvested at around 40% dry matter and stored as silage, but without grains. Previously, we used the bag storage system, but due to low compaction, there was a high incidence of mold. For this reason, we switched to bunker silos, where we can drive a tractor over the material to ensure better compaction. The result is a contamination-free, odorless, high-quality feed used as a source of effective fiber. We harvest tifton, panicum, and other grasses, but the exact variety of the forage is not the most critical factor. What truly matters is the cutting stage. The forage must not be overgrown. It should have more leaves and be soft, like what we have here. Our goal is to store the entire stock needed for the year, taking advantage of the harvest period. Here we cultivate 400 hectares of soybeans. As soon as the soybean harvest is completed, we immediately begin planting the next crop. We plant a Frenia variety corn, which is harvested between May and June and then sold as a whole plant. We need approximately 1 hectare per cow, dividing the production equally between high moisture corn and whole plant silage. Now we are going to take a sample to perform the Penn State test. All the working areas here are paved with concrete to prevent mud formation, as we are in a high rainfall region. In the Chaco, since it is a drier area, the flooring of the facilities is made of dirt. Silage compaction is a critical factor. It is difficult to extract a sample which indicates an excellent level of compaction, as all the air has been removed, preventing the multiplication of undesirable bacteria. The silage analysis shows that the lower fraction contains around 30% to 35% grains, which represents high quality silage. We can observe that all the corn is well processed and compacted, and that silage removal was done carefully. This prevents material from being exposed to the environment, fermenting and heating up. This is one of the aspects we have improved the most here in the country. To ensure accuracy, we take samples from at least 5 different points at varying heights, since the silage comes from different fields. This way, we can assess the grain content. The higher the grain content in the silage, the lower the need for high moisture corn supplementation in the diet. The primary function of the Penn State sieve is to quantify the grains present in the last tray of the analysis. This allows us to adjust the level of total digestible nutrients and reduce the inclusion of grains in the diet if necessary. These factors depend greatly on the climate and agronomic management, including fertilization, which aims to maximize grain production. This year we had a very good harvest, and however, productivity in Paraguay does not compare to regions like Cordoba, Castro, or the United States, where 10, 12, or even 14 tons of dry corn grain per hectare are produced. Here in bad years, we manage only 5 tons. In good harvests, we reach 7 tons. This is because we have warm nights, which favor the continuous multiplication of bacteria, viruses, fungi, and insects, attacking the corn plant day and night. The environment is much more hostile, and we face a high incidence of pests, such as the corn leafhopper. Additionally, planting takes place when the days are already getting shorter, reducing sunlight absorption for photosynthesis. Even so, we manage to harvest soybeans early, and immediately afterward begin the corn harvest, optimizing land use and ensuring the highest possible production.
For controlling corn leafhoppers, we currently use a significant amount of biological products, but we also employ highly potent insecticides, such as acephate, which has been the most effective so far. However, the use of biologicals has increased significantly and has greatly helped us in reducing this pest. Over the last 4 or 5 years, the incidence of corn leafhoppers has been more intense, but last year the situation was more under control. This issue is directly related to climatic conditions. Some years, we barely see any attacks, and in those cases, I end up with leftover acephate stock for the next season. The level of infestation depends heavily on rainfall volume. Additionally, the behavior of leafhoppers is influenced by heavy rain showers. We are in a region where torrential rains occur, and when this happens, the leafhoppers that are in the grasslands migrate in large numbers to the crops, multiplying rapidly. Once they enter, their reproduction accelerates, requiring the immediate application of control measures.
Here we follow a strict monitoring routine, and if we suspect the presence of grains in the cow's manure, we perform manure washing for evaluation. However, we have verified that the grains are well processed with no visible presence in the manure. This time, washing the samples will not be necessary. I will simply conduct the Penn State test. We use only 3 sieves in this test. Some people do not use this equipment, but it is essential. The most important sieve is the 8mm one, as its hole size corresponds to the opening of the reticulo-omasal orifice, which allows feed passage from the rumen to the omasum. This sieve determines what must be re-chewed before progressing through the rest of the digestive system. All material retained in this sieve is considered effective fiber, while the portion that passes through is classified as concentrate. This allows us to evaluate the quality of our silage. At first glance, the samples seem to contain a large amount of grains. Now, we will weigh 500 grams and perform the standard 40 movements. Five in each direction and 2 complete rotations. Now we will reweigh the results. The first sieve has no nutritional relevance, as it only indicates the amount of feed the cows refuse. I usually call it broom feed because it represents what is left in the feed bunk. In this case, there were 21 grams left, which is 4% of the total analyzed. This sieve is also useful for checking if there are many unbroken whole grains. Here we see that very few grains remain, indicating that the corn processing was well done. In the last tray, we found 172 grams, which corresponds to 34.5% of the total. This indicates excellent quality silage. Normally, due to the challenges posed by corn leafhoppers, our silage contains between 20% and 30% grains in the last tray. In this case, we have 34%, which allows us to reduce the amount of grains added to the diet. In practice for this test, I only need the first two sieves. The largest sieve should not be considered for effective fiber calculation because anything larger than the size of a cow's muzzle will be rejected. Therefore, I perform the calculation by subtraction without needing to weigh it. Additionally, the pre-dried forage we use is not included in the Penn State test, as it does not contain grains. Now we have taken a sample for dry matter analysis, but we won't have time to process it today. Here in Paraguay, we have a limitation. There are no local laboratories that perform starch analysis. Therefore, we use the Penn State test and send the samples for analysis in Brazilian laboratories. Over time, we have been able to establish a very precise correlation between the amount of corn found in the last tray of the test and the starch content in the diet. The laboratory results are very similar to what we estimate with this method. This allows us to make adjustments more quickly without having to wait a month for the Brazilian analysis results, because by the time those results arrive, the silage has already been consumed by the cows, making corrections too late. The analysis results are sent to CBO in Campinas. When they arrive, I use this information to fine-tune the diet formulation with precision. Currently, our diet is based on corn silage as the main forage source, complemented by high moisture corn and dry ground corn as energy sources. For protein sources, we use DDGS and soybean meal. We also include a simple mineral premix just to compensate for deficiencies in the raw materials used. All inputs, silage, corn, soybeans, and DDGS are analyzed to ensure proper balance. I use the NRC as a reference considering the requirements for cows producing 40 liters per day and evaluating more than 50 nutritional factors, including amino acids such as methionine and lysine. The mineral premix is adjusted to meet any potential deficiencies. The quality of the raw materials we use is very high. Our DDGS meets excellent standards. The soybean meal is export grade. We export 95% of the soybeans we produce, and our corn is also of high quality, being exported to Uruguay, Chile, and Brazil. This makes nutritional management easier. I avoid using ingredients with high oil or fiber content, which results in a more stable diet. We work with just one diet for lactating cows, as the system is small and it is not worth preparing two different mixers. For fresh cows, there is a manual adjustment by adding a little more fiber and protein on top of the base diet to support organ development. All components are analyzed in detail, including micronutrients such as selenium. We strictly follow NRC recommendations. The only additives we use are Monensin and live yeast, nothing beyond that. The rest of the formulation is adjusted to meet nutritional requirements without the need for extra supplements. With this management approach, we achieve very satisfactory production levels despite the heat challenges. Many cows are producing between 50 and 60 liters per day with good comfort, ruminal health, and digestible fiber. There are no secrets. The key is to work with consistency and monitor every detail to ensure everything is functioning correctly.